So anyone with a streetwear brand, or a clothing brand for that matter, knows that jumbo prints are taking the industry by storm in the last 2 years, and it doesn't seem to stop slowing down. We're talking massive graphics here that aren't playing by the rules. It's all about making a statement, and whether it's repping some sick art, a wild collab, or just vibing with a design, these tees are where it's at. And the best way you can get this done is with SupaDTF. Okay, so I got my jumbo SupaDTF transfer. I got my garment here, which is a heavyweight cotton streetwear style shirt. And the most important tool we're gonna use here is our heat tape. Now, the #1 reason you should be using heat tape is if you use any other kind of tape, it's gonna leave a residue. This doesn't, especially if you heat press it very, very hot. So this is what we're gonna use to keep our transfer in place while we press the entire jumbo print in small parts. Let's get started. Now, before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-press the t-shirt. So the reason you want to pre-press the garment is ultimately to get all the moisture out of the garment that's going to keep the transfer from properly adhering. In addition to that, it's going to level out your print area so there's no wrinkles, there's no lifting or any kind of areas, creases that's going to keep the garment from properly being adhered. And since this is a jumbo garment, I am pressing the very bottom of the shirt as well. Essentially, you want to make sure you get the entire front area of the shirt just to make sure that it's being properly pre-pressed. Now make sure you get the full area of where you plan on printing. And then on my right side, close to the sleeve here, with the sleeve seam hanging right off the press there. So pre-pressing your cotton garments is recommended across the board, whether if it's jumbo or not, because ultimately it just gives a nice smooth press area and there's no moisture left in the garment that's ultimately going to mess up what you're trying to do here. Okay, now that we've pre-pressed the shirt, we're ready to start placing our transfer. So, first thing you want to kind of do is kind of perfect your placement there and make sure that everything is nice and straight. And the best way to go about this is make sure that on both sides of your artwork you have an even amount of margin on the sides and on the bottom as well as from the top. You can even double check your measurements here to make sure that you're matching. All right, so now that I've placed my transfer, I'm gonna go ahead and heat tape it down. I'm gonna do one strip right here at the top, then we'll do a strip at the bottom. Take my corners down. Okay, now that we've pre-pressed our garment and placed our transfer and taped it in place, we're ready to press this in pieces. Now let's go ahead over to our press and get started. Now here's another important thing to keep in mind. A 22 by 24 sheet, that's gonna be bigger than your heat press. If you have a 16 by 21 or a 15 by 15 or a 12 by 12 for that matter, you're gonna have to press these in parts. The press is actually a couple inches smaller than the garment itself, so the best way to go about this is press it in pieces. Now if you're working with a 12 by 12, you can press it 1, 2, 3, 4. 15 by 15, you can maybe do 3 presses or 4, but ultimately with the press that's 16 by 21, you can easily do it in 2 pieces by just turning it on its side. And since we've already placed our transfer, there's not much of a worry about placement, so now you can just get started in pressing. Okay, so we're gonna take our first half right here, unpeel that corner. Just only peeling the area where you actually pressed. Then you're gonna feel a little bit of resistance right there. You don't want to keep going because that's just gonna peel the graphic and ultimately ruin the print. So you're gonna leave that as is. What we're doing is replacing this and we're just moving this up a bit so that we can press the rest of the sheet right here. Make sure your seams hang off the sides so that you're not getting any uneven pressing that will lead to improper peeling. And now, go ahead and press the second part of this. And just like that, we pressed our SupaDTF Jumbo Gang Sheet streetwear style.